You open an old piece of fruit and smell it before you understand it. It is sweet, but wrong. Soft, almost rotten. The smell is heavy, a little sharp, a little strange, somewhere between sugar and decay. Most of us would throw it away, but for ancient humans, that smell may have been one of the first clues to alcohol. Not a bottle, not a cup, not a feast, not a tavern, just fruit fallen from a tree, split open on warm ground, slowly changing under the sun. Before humans ever brewed beer or made wine, alcohol was already in the natural world. Yeast lived on fruit skins. Sugars broke down. Fermentation happened quietly, without permission, without invention, without any human hand at all. And somewhere in deep time, one of our ancestors smelled that change, then tasted it. So when did ancient humans first drink alcohol? The answer depends on what we mean by drink. If we mean tasting natural alcohol from fermented fruit, the story may reach far back before Homo sapiens, into the world of ancient primates. Some researchers suggest that our distant ancestors evolved a stronger ability to process ethanol millions of years ago, possibly because fermented fruit had become part of life on the ground. To a hungry animal, the smell of alcohol was not a warning label. It was a signal. It meant sugar. It meant calories. It meant something ripe enough to eat. Imagine a forest floor millions of years ago. The canopy is broken by light. Fruit has fallen beneath the trees. Insects gather. The air is warm. A primate moves carefully through the shadows, watching for danger, smelling before touching. One fruit is bruised and soft. It gives off a rich, fermented scent. The animal bites into it. It does not know what alcohol is, but the body feels the difference. Maybe warmth, maybe slight dizziness, maybe only energy, maybe nothing dramatic at all. Long before humans understood intoxication, our bodies may have already been meeting alcohol in small natural doses. But this is not yet drinking in the human sense. This is not a group making something. This is not culture. This is not ritual. For that, we need humans who could remember, repeat, and transform accident into behavior. Now, move forward. The world is colder, wider, more human. Ancient hunter-gatherers move through landscapes filled with risk and opportunity. They know which berries stain the fingers. They know which roots must be cooked. They know when honey is worth the pain of bees. They know where water hides after rain. They know that some fruits left too long taste different. There are no farms yet, no pottery at first, no written recipes, no word for chemistry, but there is attention. And attention is the beginning of technology. One day, perhaps fruit is gathered and forgotten in a skin bag, a hollowed piece of wood, or a natural stone basin. Rainwater enters. Wild yeast does its silent work. Days pass. The smell changes. Someone tastes it. The liquid is sour, sweet, strange, alive. Maybe they spit it out. Maybe they laugh. Maybe they drink again. This is the kind of moment archaeology almost never preserves. The first accidental drink leaves no clear fossil. A fermented puddle disappears. A skin bag decays. A laugh around a campfire leaves no trace. But human beings remember useful surprises. If something makes the body feel warm, relaxed, bold, or connected, people notice. If it appears after fruit sits in water, people notice. If crushed grain left wet begins to bubble, people notice. If honey water changes after several days, people notice. The first alcohol was probably not invented like a tool. It was discovered like weather, then repeated. This is where the story becomes truly human, because ancient humans did not only eat and drink to survive, they gathered, they shared, they buried their dead, they made beads, pigments, tools, music, and images. At sites such as Raqefet Cave, ochre use shows symbolic behavior deep in human history. At places like Raqefet, ancient instruments remind us that music is not a modern luxury. In caves like Chauvet and Sulawesi, images show that humans were already turning memory and imagination into form. So when alcohol entered human life, it probably did not remain just a strange taste. It became social. Picture a group near the end of a long season. The air is cool. The hunt has been difficult. Wild grains have been gathered. Seeds are crushed between stones. Water is added. A thick mixture rests in a hollow. Days later, it smells different. The group gathers. An elder tastes first, then another, then someone smiles. The drink is weak by modern standards. Cloudy, sour, more like a living food than a clean beverage. It is not beer from a bottle. It is not wine in a glass. It is grain, water, time, and invisible yeast. But it changes the night. Voices loosen. Stories grow longer. Grief becomes easier to share. People who have spent days hungry hungry, watchful, and tired feel for a short time that life has opened. The oldest strong archaeological evidence for man-made alcohol may come from Raqefet Cave in what is now Israel. There, researchers studied stone mortars connected to the Natufian culture, a semi-sedentary hunter-gatherer society living before full agriculture. The evidence suggests beer like brewing around 13,000 years ago. That detail matters because it means alcohol was not simply a byproduct of farming surplus. It may have appeared among hunter-gatherers, among people still living close to wild plants, seasonal movement, hunting, gathering, burial, and ritual. And even more importantly, Raqefet Cave was a burial site. The beer-like drink may have been part of ritual feasting connected to the dead. Imagine that scene, a cave, stone mortars, bodies buried nearby. People gathered not for ordinary hunger, but for memory. Grains are processed, a fermented drink is shared. The living drink together in the presence of the dead. This was not a party in the modern sense. It was a bridge between grief and community, between the body and belief, between the people who remained and the people who had gone into the earth. Alcohol may have helped ancient humans do something every human group must do face loss without falling apart. Later, when humans began farming, fermentation became more controlled. In Jiahu, in ancient China, chemical traces in pottery show a mixed fermented drink made from rice, honey, and fruit around the 7th millennium BC. This was not one ingredient. It was a recipe, a combination, a sign that humans had begun to understand fermentation as something they could guide. In the South Caucasus, ancient pottery from Georgia shows evidence of grape wine around 6000 to 5800 BC. By then, people were no longer only discovering alcohol. They were shaping landscapes, tending plants, storing liquids, and building traditions around fermented drink. But the emotional roots were older. Alcohol lived at the meeting point of nature and culture. Fruit fermented by itself. Humans turned fermentation into meaning. A fallen fruit becomes a taste becomes a memory becomes a method becomes a ritual becomes tradition, and tradition can last for thousands of years. This does not mean ancient alcohol was harmless. Alcohol can bond people, but it can also damage bodies, fuel conflict, cloud judgment, and create dependence. Ancient people did not understand liver disease or addiction in modern medical terms. They did not know what yeast was. They did not know the chemistry behind intoxication. Their world was already dangerous enough infection, injury, hunger, childbirth, violence, cold, drought, and predators. Alcohol may have comforted them, but it also may have carried risks they could not see clearly. So we should not romanticize it. Ancient humans were not healthier, purer, or wiser simply because they were ancient, but they were observant and deeply social. They learned that fermented drink could do something ordinary food did not. It could change the mood of a gathering. It could mark a ceremony. It could make a funeral different from a meal. It could turn shared plants into shared feeling. In the modern world, alcohol often sits under bright lights, supermarket shelves, bars, restaurants, advertisements, labels, brands. It is measured, taxed, sold, celebrated, abused, restricted, and debated. We gained science. We gained medicine. We know far more about alcohol's dangers than ancient humans ever could, but we also inherited something older than civilization. The human habit of using fermented drink to change a moment, a toast before a wedding, a drink after loss, a cup shared between friends, a bottle opened when words are not enough. The ancient world is still there, hidden beneath the glass. So when did ancient humans first drink alcohol? If we mean natural fermented fruit, perhaps before we were fully human. If we mean deliberate human-made alcohol, the best evidence reaches back at least 13,000 years to hunter-gatherers who may have brewed beer like drinks before farming fully began. But the deeper answer is this: humans first drank alcohol when they discovered that time could transform sweetness into something mysterious. A fruit could fall, a grain could soak, honey could change, a liquid could begin to breathe. And when ancient humans drank it, they were not only tasting alcohol, they were tasting transformation. Long before cities, before writing, before money, before temples of stone and kings with names, a small group gathered in the dark and shared a strange drink made by nature, patience, and chance. They did not know the word fermentation. They did not know the science, but they knew the feeling. For a little while, hunger softened. Grief loosened. Stories became warmer. The group felt closer. And in a hard ancient world, that may have been powerful enough to remember forever.